feel as if like I have an Adam Copeland shrine behind me for some odd reason. I've got the tag title, I've got the big gold, I've got the Intercontinental, I've even got the the Funko Pop sign, the United States title sign. The only thing I don't have is the Rated R Superstar Spitter. That's the only one I don't have. But I do have two additions that I believe you're going to be adding, that TNT title eventually and the AEW title eventually.
I mean, you never know. You never know.
We'll leave it at that. Great stuff. Great stuff. I've got Adam Copeland on with us, of course, this weekend, AEW Collision and Battle of the Belts 8 debuts at the FedEx Forum this Saturday. Of course, you can grab your tickets now at allelitewrestling.com. Real quick, I do want to ask you a question, and I've seen rumors on the internet about this.
Well, then it's got to be true.
It is, because I know you're in the upcoming Percy Jackson series. We've all seen it at the New York Comic-Con. Big congrats on that.
Thank you.
My question is it true that if you're in a Disney show or movie or whatever, you get passes to all the Disneys for life, like all the theme parks?
I mean, I don't know it to be true yet, so I think we can debunk that one.
I mean, that would be kind of cool that if you're in a Disney, you should get free access, right?
I mean, I got two daughters who would definitely agree with that sentiment, but I haven't been privy to that one yet.
Well, we'll have to get to the bottom of this and figure this one out to make sure everything's taken care of. A lot of headlines have been made. You came over to AEW, and it was a monumental moment. Everybody lost their mind when that theme song hit. And, AEW's got a unique blend of talent and what seems like a more relaxed, creative environment. How does this differ from your previous experiences, and how do you find it more fulfilling as a performer?
I mean, every process has its pros and cons, right? But it's great to be involved to a heavy extent creatively. Now, I've been lucky in that throughout the years and throughout a lot of years and producing that you are given some creative freedom. That's always great, because as a performer, you have to be able to bite into what you're trying to produce out there. I've always said if there's some element of truth that the person behind the character can bite into, then the fiction should follow that truth. And that doesn't change, that's always treated the same, but it's really nice to sit down and go, okay, how could this story play out, and be heavily involved in that, and being here on a week-to-week basis, that becomes more possible. It's not poking in every 3 months, and that becomes hard. It becomes a hard process to be involved, in a large creative way, when it's just kind of popping in and out like that.
Right, for sure. And we've already started seeing all the wheels turning. You've already made it known who you would like to wrestle in AEW after the press conference. And something really cool, and it's been making its way around the internet. Recently, a photo was posted on social media of you, Bryan Danielson, and Saraya, all of which were told at some point, you're never going to be able to wrestle again. And here you all are in the same company, all defying the odds in wrestling. How awesome was that moment for you three when you were taking that photo and letting it all sink in?
Well, I mean, if Brian and I are not the brightest bulbs on the tree, so it was Saraya who put it together, and she went, "Hold on a second." We're like, "Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, we got to get a picture of this, because just to be able to acknowledge it, to celebrate it, three people who wanted to do this, and I think three people who always wanted to do this. So the fact that all of us got it back. Pretty cool. Yeah. And just nice to be able to take that moment for a second and soak it in, really, because that's the first time we were all in a ring together, and it just kind of dawned on her, thankfully.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, growing up, I was a big wrestling fan, and I've gotten my kids into wrestling. I've got an older kid who's kind of now the teenage age where wrestling's not cool. My 6-year-old thinks wrestling is the greatest thing in the world. Sure. And I was able to grow up watching you wrestle. I watched you when you came in as the Brood and everything else, Ministry. I was there at WrestleMania back in, 2011 in Atlanta, when it was you and Del Rio.
Yep.
And then when later that year you retired and everything, I was like, I don't think my kids will ever be able to, think ahead, my kids be able to watch, Adam in a ring. And now my kid gets super excited and he's like trying to spear me as I'm sitting downstairs on the couch watching AEW on Wednesday night. He's like, "Here," and I'm like, "Stop." Uh, it's great because now, he can watch you wrestle, and, people that, that I grew up watching are still there going at a high level. And it's a testament right there.
Well, the biggest thing for me was the challenge initially. Can I do this again? Can I do something that hasn't been done before, with the extent of my surgeries and injury? But after that, I started to realize that I'm reaching a whole new generation. And when I started seeing little kids and now being a dad and connecting with them in a different way, I think they all feel that dad energy coming from me. And that to me has been the greatest byproduct of this by far. It's so much fun, because I think back to being that kid, right? And I remember Maple Leaf Gardens, if I got to smack hands with Texas Tornado and he let me touch the Intercontinental Championship, like, come on, to be a part of anything like that for a kid is just, my favorite part of this now.
It's great to just watch him react, because we were at the AEW show in Nashville about a month or so ago, and we were right there on ringside, and Dax and all them came by and handed my kid the belt, like you were just talking about. And he's like taking a photo with it, and he's like losing his mind, and he's like, "This is the belt," and he's got all the belts as well. But it's great to see kids getting involved into it. And this is what's great about when you watch AEW. You've got a lot of people there, and it seems like everybody's there to help each other out. And as a veteran in the industry, how do you see your role in AEW in terms of like mentoring and helping that younger talent develop their skills?
I've always said I'm here to be that if people want that. I don't want to be one of those guys who walks around saying, "I watched your match, and if you did that," like, I don't want to be that guy. But if people ask me, I'm always here. And always here as a sounding board, always here. Like, if you want to work on promos, send them to me and we can dive into them and pull them apart and try and add some layers. I love being a part of that. I love seeing a light bulb go off for young talent. The growth of young talents to me is really exciting, because I think back again to when I was getting in the industry and the Bad News Browns of the world and the Bret Harts of the world, took me under their wing and showed me, and woke me up to things.
Right.
And that's always, pay it forward, right? It sounds cliche, but especially in this industry, it's really, really important.
And I mean, you look at it, and I mean, AEW has been very, very good at cultivating that young talent, that homegrown, I know they call it the 4 pillars, but I mean, you look at them and they've done really good at cultivating that young talent. And something also great that we've noticed when you watch AEW is you get a little bit more freedom to do certain things with like other promotions outside of AEW. I know that AEW has the working relationship with New Japan and everywhere else. Is that something that you would like to do? And if so, outside of AEW, is there anybody you'd like to step inside the ring with?
That's pretty exciting, actually, and again, a byproduct of coming here is, oh, wait, hold on a second. Tokyo Dome. I could get, that's on a checklist. Arena Mexico. Well, hold on, because I went there once. I was world champ, but I wore a mask because I want to watch the show. And so I snuck in and watched the show with, I think, a Mephisto mask on.
That's great.
And just had a blast, because I love the culture of Lucha Libre, and I love the pageantry and so I mean, those 2 things I think would be very cool as a lifelong wrestling fan. Those are 2 experiences that I think would be really cool, that I just didn't know would ever be in the cards. So you have to kind of write it off, especially after I had to retire in 2011. It's like, okay, just didn't get those things done. Now they can get done, and that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and here's my thought, and
I don't know.
I'm throwing this out there in the universe, because every time we've thrown something out in the universe, it happens. My personal thoughts: Adam Copeland enter the G1 Climax next year.
I mean, we'd have to carve out some time, I guess. But Eddie did it this year, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a possibility.
I mean, never say never, right?
Right.
This weekend it's a big one. AEW Collision Battle of the Belts 8, FedEx Forum this Saturday. You can still grab your tickets now, allelitewrestling.com. And here on the show, we're big into music, and I know bringing in Alter Bridge for your theme song for AEW was great. And I know that Tony likes to kind of throw in some throwbacks every now and then. Is there a possibility for like a random one-off? We might get that Rob Zombie theme song come out just randomly?
Nothing I do is random.
Okay.
There's always a plan. So, but knowing how in tune I am and how important music is to my character and how I look at things, you never know. But I feel like if it does happen, it will be because it will hit more and with more story behind it.
Oh gosh,
not just random.
You're like playing at my heartstrings right now, because I was sitting there and I was playing back like all your theme songs earlier, just getting pumped for this interview. I was doing that, and then I was also listening to Tony Chimmel do your announcing, which could that also maybe, throwing it out there in the universe as well, maybe just he randomly shows up how like Finkel would do certain things back in the day, just randomly show up and announce.
In no way do I mean disrespect to this, but if you thought of it, I thought of it about 8 weeks ago.
Dang. I'm just
8 weeks, but at least 3.
I gotta get my game up and just stop throwing things there in the universe. But man, I gotta tell you, Adam, it's an honor to have you on the show. I know you're a very busy man, and I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you've got some things you got to address, some stuff tonight at AEW, especially with Christian and some words that he said last week, especially pertaining to your family. Like, yep. I saw that and I was like, oof. Somebody's about to get a solo concerto eventually.
Yeah, it's been fun to play this one out, and I think the real challenge with it is we have a lot of TV, so it's making sure to keep this thing, compelling, and that's a fun challenge though, and that's where we're at with it is, okay, what's the next twist? And that's usually when I start stroking my goatee. I realized I just did it.
There it is. Now you're already thinking of something that I'm going to come tweet you like weeks later and be like, hey, what if Edge does this? And you're just going to respond back. Thought about it that time while I was talking to you on the show, Battle.
Like my beard.
Well, Adam, it's literally an honor and a privilege to have you on the show. My co-host Eli couldn't be here tonight because he had something else, but he wanted to let you know that the very first wrestlers that he met a long time ago were you and Christian, and that was the first meet and greet that he ever did with the wrestlers.
Wow.
And he even had like the old like Brood shirt that he was going to wear during the interview tonight.
Oh, nice. The original?
Original. Yeah, he told me how much he bought it off on eBay, and I was like, I would have done the same thing. I would have done the exact same thing. But real quick, before we let you go, is there anything else you want to say to everybody watching, listening to this right now?
I more than anything, I know how wrestling, the social media culture of wrestling fandom can be right now. And it's kind of a bummer sometimes. So more than anything, when I look at things as a wrestling fan, which I still am, I think it's amazing. There's so many different ways to watch. There's so many different things to watch. It doesn't matter what the initials are. Mm-hmm. It's professional wrestling. And if we're talking about this, or if we're, complaining about this, or, putting glory behind this, it means we love this thing. And I wish people would remember that this is something that is awesome. It's just supposed to be fun.
It absolutely is. And the fact
that I'm having a blast every time I'm out there. So, hopefully that translates.
You can definitely, when we watch like your debut and everything, you can definitely tell that you were like ecstatic, and you can genuinely see that smile on your face. You get out there, that crowd popped, and you hear on this day, and like just having everybody go. It was fantastic.
It's the best gig in the world, and to me, it's still the most fun form of entertainment in the world. That hasn't changed.
Absolutely. Well, Adam, again, I don't want to take up too much of your time. You're a Hall of Famer, a legend, an icon. I'm marking out right now, so I'm just going to say thank you for everything and coming on the show, and we look forward to having you back on soon.
Thanks for having me, man.